Can you believe we're still having conversations about basic COVID stuff? I mean, we've known what to do to defeat this pandemic for most of a year, and the rising availability of vaccines has greatly enhanced our ability to fight it, but still over 60,000 Americans test positive every day, and our hospitals are filling up once again. Through most of the past year, we sat on our hands and allowed a lot of people to get sick and a lot of people to suffer very long duration, horrible symptoms, and we've stood by and watched over 500,000 of our fellow citizens die. Dr. Deborah Birx recently said what you know to be true, that about 450,000 of our 550,000 COVID deaths were preventable. Early on in the pandemic, a study at Oxford University said that 70 to 90% of U.S. COVID deaths were due to poor national leadership. That is, they were preventable, but for self-serving you-know-who. Given that, how is it that so many millions of Americans still refuse to wear a mask? Yeah, I know it's a terrible infringement on their individual freedom, poor babies. How is it that Republican governors like DeSantis in Florida, Abbott in Texas, and Noem in South Dakota are doing everything possible to prevent any requirement for mask wearing in their cities, at work, and inside retail stores? Of course, they're doing it to suck up to their flagrant and vocal constituents in order to collect campaign donations. But they harm those very constituents because they, like so many others, continue to get sick and die. How is it that the vast majority of white evangelicals oppose vaccines on self-righteous religious grounds? How is it that way too many of our citizens are both anti-science and conspiracy believers who refuse vaccines for staunchly held anti-fact reasons? No, vaccines don't cause autism as proven conclusively and repeatedly by, guess what? Science. And Bill Gates isn't packing nanobots into vaccines so he can track and control you. In all cases, mask and vaccine refusers, political contribution suckers, and science and reality deniers, these are people ruled by self-serving confirmation bias and a drive for power and control. Why are we treating this deadly disease like it's an optional game of volleyball in the park where refusing to play is no big deal? There are so many of our people doing just that, and that's why we're still not free of this awful disease. Here's a parallel to that. President Biden is initiating a series of executive orders aimed at curtailing our gun slaughter, but those will only be temporary fixes subject to the whim of the next president. We need Republicans to act, but they've proven to be intransigent on this issue as they are to most challenges. Here's my view about gun safety reform. See if you agree. We'll have strong gun safety legislation and the beginning of curtailing our national carnage when we and our legislators at last decide that we love our children, our relatives, and our friends more than we love our lust for power and control. I'll say that again. We'll have strong gun safety legislation and the beginning of curtailing our national carnage when we and our legislators at last decide that we love our children, our relatives, and our friends more than we love our lust for power and control. Given the overwhelming public support for gun safety laws, it's our Second Amendment thumpers and our political contribution suckers whom we have to win over if we're ever to be free from this brutality. And so it is with masks and vaccinations. The refusers are the key obstacle to our resuming full personal and national health, and are the ones we have to win over if we're ever to be free from this brutality. Like I said, we've known what to do to defeat this pandemic, really both pandemics. The trick is getting people to do the right thing. Now an end note. Each year, the local high schools combine their singing and orchestral talents into a marvelous spring concert of about 500 very talented kids under wonderful direction. It's held in the Cathedral of Techny Towers, a massive and beautiful sanctuary, the acoustic of which compel music to sound. It is a singer's and musician's delight. The programs are new each year, but the closer is always the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Written by abolitionist Julia Ward Howe in 1861, it is a prayer for a time when we were ripping ourselves apart, not unlike today. If you've not heard this majestic piece in full, you need to. It's attached at the bottom of the written post. As you listen, imagine that you're surrounded by singers and musicians. They're in front of you, along both sides, and even along the sides of the balcony above and around you. You're surrounded by a message. The point of bringing this into the conversation is a line from the hymn. It is inherently Christian, so feel free to take this in that way, but also read and feel these words as a compelling message for us in these dark times of civil strife. As he died to make men holy, let us live to make men free. That's free, like our people healthy and free from pandemic. You and I free from the danger of firearms in the hands of those who would harm us. Our citizens free and with full and equal rights, all of them. Feel free to add to this list in the comments section. Let us live to make men and women free. I'm Jack Altshuler.